Hello, I'm live and I was way too close to that window and I still am. So I am going to back up. Bear with me. I'm hitting one of my pots. Oh my goodness gracious. I thought that light would be perfect, but it's not. So there you go. Hello, this is Cindy, Palm Springs Cindy here for our daily chat. It is raining here in Palm Springs, which is just, I'm shocked because yesterday it was a sunny day with blue skies and nothing that signaled there might be rain. It's kind of nice. It's not really rainy, but the streets are damp. There are low clouds on the mountain, which is what I'm looking at. Maybe before I hang up, excuse me, I'll pan around so you can see my view out the window. It's just gorgeous. Well, I have been posting almost every day, which of course I love. But I have also, as a result of that, I've been getting lots of feedback and comments from you guys. And so one of the comments, actually more than one, mentioned something about, for me to talk about my menopause story. How did that happen for me? And, I think that women our age are very, we grew up with thinking that menopause was the curse and the change of life. Change from what? Change from a good life to a not good life. Change from a youthful life with a husband and children frolicking throughout, PTAs and churches and soccer and Girl Scouts to a, sedentary lifestyle. I'm not sure what the change of life meant, but it did not have a positive denotation. So, when I was a young woman, I just thought, I had a very regular cycle. I was I never took birth control pills. A lot of my girlfriends did because they were really the rage in my generation. When I was in college, that's when they were alive and active. They'd been on the market for quite some time and they had been proven to be safe and so on. So, but I didn't do that. I didn't use birth control pills. So, so I didn't have my daughter till I was 29. My first pregnancy, my only pregnancy, and so, I was in good health and all of that. Well, then when I started getting older, actually I was like in my early 40s, and my periods started becoming irregular. And I was not feeling well. I was very PMS-y a lot of the time. And I never really struggled with PMS, maybe the first few days before I had my period. But, it wasn't a huge factor in my life like it is for some women. So I was concerned. I was concerned for a couple reasons. Number one, I wasn't feeling red hot. Number two, why I wasn't feeling really great was because I felt like I was having PMS, so I knew it was hormonal. And number three, I knew that I did not want any more children. There's a story behind that, which eventually I may share with you, but I'm not sure. I knew I did not want more children. So, and neither did my husband. So I went to the doctor. I went to my gynecologist, who I'd been going to for quite some time, who I really liked, who knew me, knew my family. And so I said that I wanted to have a tubal ligation. And so he said back to me, you're too old for a tubal. You're 44. And we don't do, well, actually I was 43. And we don't do tubals on a 43-year-old woman. And I was like, what? And so he said, no, we just don't. So he said, what's the problem? So I explained, I hadn't been feeling well, and he knew that because I had been coming in to see him about, what's wrong with me and whatever. So, so he said, you do have a cyst on one of your ovaries, and that could be a problem. That could be pumping out more estrogen or hormone than is needed. And so that could be, let's watch that. Let's start documenting how you're feeling. Let's start documenting your temperature in the morning. Let's start, give me a month or two, I think it was a couple of months of documentation. And then let's take a look at what it shows, what the record shows. So I said, fine. Which I did. Every morning I had to wake up and take my temperature. I had this little calendar thing that I had to fill out. I had to sort of journal about how I was feeling. And so I went back to him after this was all over, and he, checked me and all that, took sonograms. So he said, okay, you are a candidate for a hysterectomy. So he said, I have to run this through your insurance. How do you feel about that? Because it will be by this time I was 44. He said, because when you're 44, we do not, we do a complete hysterectomy, and your cyst is on your ovary. So I would not just take out one ovary, I would take both ovaries and your uterus. And so he said, how do you feel about that? And I said, fine with me. What about aftershock? What about my hormones after that? And he said, we have HRT. Now remember, this was 30 some odd years ago. And so I was, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, was still, I don't think it was really, we didn't know that much about it, I guess, but I was like, I'm so innocent about stuff like that. I just do whatever my doctor says. So I was like, okay. So then I went in, I had a hysterectomy. It was quite hard on me. I thought it would be like lickety split. He did it through, I can't think of the name, but he did not make an incision. He laparoscopically. And he said, hopefully you'll have 2 laparoscopies, maybe 4. And if things are really messy, we're going to have to do a full-on whatever incision. So luckily, I ended up having 4 little laparoscopes, 1 through my belly button, and then the other 3, very low on the pelvic. So, so in other words, there was no incision to recover from. Of course, I had full anesthesia, and that's, that's hard to recover from. But I did. And then he talked to my husband, and he said, she needs to be, she cannot do housework. She cannot drive. He sort of gave us the 411 on my recovery. Great. So then after I had my hysterectomy, I was put on strictly estrogen. I think strictly estrogen. No, testosterone and estrogen. No progesterone. So I was feeling good. I was feeling feminine. I was feeling, I had a good libido. And then as time went by, I was taken off the testosterone at my request because I was, well, you know what testosterone does. And I was like too full of testosterone. So then for a long time, I was just on estrogen. And that was, for a long time, I'm going to say 15 years, I was on estrogen. So I never really went through the traditional menopause. I never went through the natural way. Now, so I was on my estrogen. Then one Christmas Eve, I was getting dressed to go to my sister's actually, for Christmas. And I was putting on some leggings or some stockings. It was the kind of thing where I had to run them up my leg. And I was running them up my leg, on my left leg, and I felt a funny feeling above my ankle, 4 inches above my ankle. And it was a pain. It wasn't like a pleasant feeling. It wasn't a bruise or anything. It wasn't a knot. It was just a feeling I'd never felt before. So I thought I thought it was Christmas Eve. I'm getting ready to go out of town to celebrate Christmas, but I'm logging that feeling in my mind. What's up with that? So I did. And I went to Christmas. We had a great Christmas Eve. We had a great Christmas morning, I spent the night at my mother's house because my sister had a house full and my mother only lives a few miles from my sister. So I spent the night at my mother's house, and I took my clothes off to put my jammies on. And as I stripped off that stocking, I felt that crazy little feeling again. So I thought, well, that hasn't gone away and there's no bruise there or anything. So I, I thought, I think I have a blood clot. And if I do, it could travel to my heart tonight or my lungs, and I could die. So I totally said an act of contrition. I laid in bed in the little guest room at my mother and father's home, and I thought, it's Christmas Eve. I'm not waking everybody in town up, everybody in the family up to say what's wrong with me. And I thought, if I have a blood clot and I die tonight, so be it. And then I went and I made peace. So then the next morning, about 4:30, I had to get up to go to the bathroom. I got up, I went to the bathroom, and I felt my leg again, and I still had that feeling. So I called my sister. It was about 5 in the morning. I called my sister and I said, wake up. I need you clear-headed. And so she's like, okay, I'm waking up. Now remember, it's Christmas morning, 5 o'clock. She's got little kids. And I said, something's wrong with me. I think I have a blood clot. I don't want to wake anybody up. Do you think you could drive to Mom's? Because I didn't have my car. Do you think you could drive to Mom's, pick me up, and drop me off at the local ER? Then get back to your house for Christmas and just zip up your mouth. Maybe this was the day after Christmas. And so she was like, what are you talking about? Well, you're crazy, blah, blah. And then I said, I'm serious. And she said, okay, I'll be right there. And she was right there. We did just that. She picked me up. She took me to the ER. I told them my story. I said, I've got this funny feeling. They did a ultrasound on me, and I had a blood clot. So they gave me blood thinners right then and there. They said, you need to contact your doctor. Your blood thinners, because your blood clot is low on the leg, because it's below your knee, you're okay. But if it was above the knee, we would be concerned. So they said, I said, well, I'm here for a couple days out of town, blah, blah, blah. I said, you can wait for a couple days. Take these blood thinners, then get to your primary doctor. And I did. I went to my primary, which, by the way, had been a new primary for me because my teacher insurance had changed. So she didn't know me all that well. But anyway, she got the report from the ER, and she said, so we talked, and I had told her, I said, I've been on estrogen, just estrogen, for 15 years. So she said, that's it. You have got to get off estrogen now. No more hormone for you. So I was like, what? How can I just stop hormone? Lickety split. And she said, well, you have to. And I said, well, and she could tell I was miffed. And I was like, what? And she said, what is your concern? Why are you worried? Why are you fighting getting off estrogen? I said, well, because if I'm off all hormone and I have no ovaries and I have no uterus, ain't I a woman? And she said, well, of course. And I said, well, won't I start losing my hair and my skin's gonna dry up and I'm gonna my nails will become like thin paper and I'll get all dried out? And she said, no, you won't. And she said, I don't want you to worry about that. You must get off estrogen. And she said, I even mean no sweet potatoes. Don't do creams. Don't go to the health food store and try to find a replacement. You cannot have anything to do with hormone anymore. So of course I haven't. And I've been just fine. Like she said, I have not dried up. I have not lost my hair. I have not turned into paper thin fingernails. Although kind of, because I just had my acrylic's taken off, but that doesn't count. But I will say that the older I got, so 44 hysterectomy, 54, 61, 60-ish, I was off all hormone. That's about the timetable. And I still do have a heat thing every once in a while. I want to say heat stroke, but you know what I mean. And I do, I never feel PMSy. My libido is good. My skin is fine. My hair is fine. You know, I still have juice. And that was my biggest concern, was that I would just dry up. You know, dry hair, dry skin, dry feet, dry this, dry that. And I didn't. So, but I do have heat flashes, but far and few between. And and lots of times I was not able to sleep well. And I know that had a lot to do with my hormones. But bottom line, I have not had one hormone in my body, literally. So that's my menopause story. And I would say, because I was a young woman when I had a complete hysterectomy, I would just say that for my experience, it turned out to be just fine. So for any other young women that are watching that maybe are up for a complete hysterectomy, I say, it worked out for me. I also live in peace because I know that ovarian cancer and uterine cancer are quite high as ladies get older. It can happen and it's quite aggressive. And so I don't have to worry about that. Now I still have to get, I still need to get my pap smear, even though I have no cervix. But the doctor says, went up for my checkups. Have you had your mammogram? Have you had your pap smear? Have you had a colonoscopy? And, and I usually say, well, what do I need a pap smear for? And they're like, oh no, you still need to have one. So there you go. I don't get one. I did have one. I can't remember when, but it's not high on my list. So anyway, ladies, before I take myself off camera, I'm going to turn my camera around and so you can see this beautiful view I'm looking at. Maybe I won't because I don't want to make you guys dizzy. Anyway, I worked with my physical therapist this morning. She congratulated me on getting into the bathtub, made me show her how I did it, and I showed her, and she said, just be very careful. And then she said, she made me walk on my toe tap with my walker, and I did. And then she said, good job, now get in bed and rest. And then she gave me about 3 new exercises to do because my right leg, my broken leg, is really atrophied. It's skinny, it's bony. Not my other one, but that broken one, it really looks sad. But she told me it will plump up. It's just the way it looks right now. But once you start standing on it and walking on it more, it'll start plumping up. So I was glad to hear that. My brother and his wife are staying with me right now. And last night he made carne asada burritos that were so dang good. And tonight, I don't know he's a cook. So we're having something wonderful. And they're gone for the day. They had business to take care of in town, but they're staying with me for a few nights. So anyway, this is Palm Springs Cindy saying, until our next conversation.